All right, how do we get started on this next part of the project, part two of Project 8? So what I've done is I've typed out all of the content, and it's now available on the class website. And so basically, what we have here is essentially this thing. It's a logo, right? And what I've done here is let's see, what am I doing there? Illustrator. There we go. What I've done, I've just kind of done basically what we did on that project 7 at the very beginning when we were playing around with the logo in your name, right? Bingo. Got an instant logo. Took me all of about 5 seconds, right? So, word. I'm looking for word. There we are. So, the next thing that happens then is we've got the text, right? So here's the text. You can do anything you want with the logo. You can use just pure text. You can do something like the logo in your name. You can do something else or nothing. It's your choice. Okay. It can be any size. And it can be values of gray if you want, whatever. Okay. So then here's the content, right? Happy hour. Then now serving San Diego's craft beer, dollar off drafts, house wine by the glass, sushi specials, $5 small plates, and then the little plates that they have. So these are all islands of information, right? So the happy hour from 3 to 6, clearly that needs to kind of stay together because if you split it up, it isn't going to make much sense. Same thing about the craft beer, right? They're now serving the craft beer, right? So these are concepts that stay together, but they don't have any particular hierarchy. In other words, happy hour is no more important than a dollar off draft beers, right? It doesn't really matter because any one of these things could be something that's important to that person. Maybe happy hour, maybe it's more important because it is happy hour after all, and these are the things that happen during happy hour. But other than that, there's probably no other real serious category importance, hierarchy. So $5 small plates could be just as important as a dollar off draft beers, right? And can go in any direction. Okay, so the easiest way to do that is to have your Word document off to one side. And what you're going to do is you're going to start by grabbing some of the text, right? So here I've just grabbed a couple of lines of text. So the easiest thing to do is go over to your Word doc and see I've got my San Diego craft beer. So I've already got this information in, right? So now dollar off draft beers, right? So I can just click on that. I can copy it, Command C. I can go to my text tool in Illustrator. I can click once and paste. Bingo, there's my text, right? So then I go back to my Word doc. I get the next couple of lines of text. Actually, it's best if you break it up into more than one line. So I'm going to just grab house wines. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back to Illustrator, click house wines. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to my Word doc. What you can do, it's actually easier to copy and paste the text out of Word than it is off the website. So if you wanted to copy it off the website and paste it into a Word doc, because you can see what I do, all I need to do is click right next to the line and it selects the whole thing. So it just makes copy pasting so much easier, right? So anyway, so we'll copy that, go to Illustrator, click on the text tool, paste again, bingo. All right, and then you just continue on down the road till you've got everything in place. Okay, so once you've got everything here, now it's time to start thinking about maybe breaking things up into more than one line or where you might want to go. So what I've done here now, and I'm playing around with this typeface, and it's called Oswald. Okay, and it's a Google font, right? So Google font right there. So you just go to Google Fonts, Oswald, and the name of is Oswald right here. Okay, Oswald. And it's a neat typeface because it's got a bunch of different weights. And so once you select that, you can see I've already selected it because it's got a minus on it. But once you've selected your typeface, it'll come down here. It'll say family selected. You can open that up, and then you don't have to worry about anything here. You just say download. It's going to ask where you want to put it. And you go, in my case here, I take my typefaces and I put them into a folder called Type Download. You can put it wherever you want. It turns into a zip file. You double click the zip file. It opens up a folder called Fonts or Otswald. In this case, my Otswald font is here because I've already obviously installed it. And then you just drag those to your type folder, your fonts folder on your hard drive, just like you were doing with DaFont. Same idea, okay? So I'm going to cancel that and I'm going to hide that. And so now I'm back on my my project, right? So if you want to use Oswald, it's a cool typeface. It has a variety of type weights and not so many styles. So it has some limitations, but it's got a nice family of weights. The neat thing, of course, about Arial is that if you use Arial, it does have a pretty nice set of, well, it's only got 4 actually. At least this one does. You might end up, I'm going to do that. You might do something different. And so basically, you might have a much larger library. Arial has italic and it has extra bold and it has condensed and so on and so forth. My particular type library doesn't have that. So anyway, long story short, if you want to use Oswald, it's a neat typeface with a nice family that will do some neat things. So that being said, let's see, anything else here? I'm just kind of looking at something here. I think we're good. All right. So then what I do is I just basically kind of break it up into different categories, you know, just kind of different islands. And I just kind of see what I got going on. I've imported that logo, and now I'm all just sort of setting everything up. So then I start thinking about hierarchy, right? So now basically you can see I've got everything pretty much where I thought, okay, I'm going to put the happy hour over here, the craft beer over here, and then I'm going to just sort of play around over here and see what happens. So what I've done here is I started playing around with hierarchy, also playing around with weight changes. And also you can play with value, right? And so, and transparency if you get that far. I added a little gray value in the back of the X Cafe. And that logo will be available to download from the class website if you want to, or you can make your own, like I said, whatever you want to do. Okay, so then once you've got your hierarchy thinking all figured out, then you start playing around with the type hierarchy, right? And so now I've got, you know, remember we're stuck with 3 different type sizes, font sizes, okay? So you basically can pick whatever sizes you want, but you're limited to 3. So what I've done here is I've picked 72 point for my large. I've picked 48 point for my middle size. And I've picked 18 point for my small. Whoa, undo that. Whoa, kill it. Undo. Let me just take, anyway, 18 point. 18 point. Okay, so those are my 3 sizes. Now, I do say that you can use one really large type size for emphasis if you wanted to. In this case here, you know, I've got 118 points, say. And so I could say, well, I want that to be 118.2, right? So I might go 118, and happy hour could get really big. So I'd be limited to that one really large size, which then becomes more of a graphic element. It's still a piece of type, obviously, but it becomes graphic because it becomes big and it has a lot of mass. And so remember about gravity, suddenly that will allow, you know, allow you to do some things with that gravity. So you can also use rules, right? Lines. And if you wanted to, you could even use, you can use even shapes if you wanted to. So I could even go in here and say, maybe I might want to put those all in here, and then I might want to, you know, turn that off and do my fill. Oh, stop it. Anyway, and do a fill like it's black or something like that. And then I could go to my color. And remember with the color, we have RGB. Remember this down in here? Okay. And then you also have HSB. So I always suggest you use HSB. Or in our case, we can even just use grayscale because we're limited to gray. And then you could make it a light gray, for example. And then you could, you know, you could right click on it and say arrange, send it back, and then bingo. So you can do stuff like that if you want to, right? So you've got a lot of variables. So my recommendation here is set your type up and get a really cool hierarchy going. And then look at the specs for the layout, like all the horizontal and the angles and so on and so forth, and start playing with the different angles and the different criteria that you have to do, and then just move everything around. So if everything's got a cool hierarchy already, you don't need to rethink that. Just go ahead and do like one of the part ones, for example, and then maybe do something different. For example, house wines doesn't have to be important. It could be by the glass, or $4 by the glass house wines, right? So new could be big sushi specials, right? Or could be new sushi specials, right? So there's a whole variety of different ways that you can create hierarchy with these different words and phrases. So it's up to you how you interpret that, and then of course take a look at some of the samples. They'll give you a lot of ideas about what you can do with the content. And of course the content's different than the samples, but the idea is the same, and the amount of content is about the same as well. So you can also, if you want, you can use upper and lower case. I can't remember if it was best or not, but it might not even be best craft beers. It could even be craft beers, right? So you can play around with upper and lower case. That's all copacetic. You're not stuck with any, particular upper or lower case, whatever. Okay. So those are some things to think about as you play around with this project. So this should be a lot of fun, because this is when it's all said and done, this is a table card, and table cards are used like everywhere all the time. And so it's a potential portfolio piece for you, and it could, obviously be a pretty neat project when it's all said and done. Okay, cool. Have some fun.